Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and I'm going to be taking a look at Primo Victoria, which is the new Swedish premium, and it's come alongside the Swedish Tech Tree tanks as well. And this one is basically the Primo Victoria sort of Sabaton edition, and Sabaton are a Swedish heavy metal band, and I'd not heard of them before Gamescom, I think it was, when they were on stage with Wargaming. Now, if you buy this in the store, not only will you spend a shit ton of gold, it is very expensive, 13,100, but you will also get the lead singer, I think it is, as the crew, and there is also an op-on at the minute, Band of Brothers, where you can earn the other members of the band as Swedish crews. Now, you can also buy these from the store, but they are very expensive, 2,700 per crew, and that's not including, I don't think you can get the lead singer, I think that's only with the tank. But that is very expensive for a 100% crew with a Brothers in Arms skill on it. That is quite pricey, and this tank is quite pricey because what you've got here is tier 8 and is essentially a Tech Tree Centurion 1 in the Swedish line, but it's got a smaller engine, so therefore a smaller power to weight ratio. It's got, what else? There's something else. Oh, slightly increased rate of fire from 7.5 to 8 rounds a minute. But it's got the buffed turret from the PC version of the Centurions. So the turret front is, I think, increased from 152, I think it is originally, to 254, I think it is on this. Now that sounds very nice. I mean, I quite like the Centurion. I thought it was alright. Much better after the speed increase. That was my main gripe with the Centurion, was that limited top speed. And it's, I think it's been much better since. But what you've got to remember is this, this would be very, very good in hull down positions on ridge lines, because it's got minus 10 degrees of gun depression as well. And especially with that really thick turret front. But it's the buffed turret from the PC, so the Tech Tree tanks will be getting that buff at some point. So do bear that in mind. You might be thinking, well, it's fantastic, Centurion, amazing turret, I might have that. But don't forget the Tech Tree ones will be getting that at some point, so this will kind of lose some of its uniqueness, because at the minute that's the thing that makes it unique, is that it's got that buff turret, that really strong turret front. But once the Tech Tree ones get that buff, this will lose its uniqueness and just become a slightly slower version, and that'll be it. That'll be the only difference, apart from that extra half a round a minute. It'll just be a slower version of the Tech Tree one, so do bear that in mind. And like I say, you will have spent quite a lot of gold on it. A bit like with the Crafts Panther, the thing that made that mostly different was the fact that it had that increased top speed over the Tech Tree Panther, and then since they've buffed the Tech Tree Panther top speed, it's kind of lost that sort of uniqueness now, and it's just really a bit of a slower version of one. So you've got the 650 engine instead of 750 in the normal Centurion. It says 8.4 centimetre gun, but it's basically, for all intents and purposes, it's a 20 pounder. I don't know if that is the actual sort of centimetre or millimetre bore of the 20 pounder, but it's essentially a 20 pounder with that increased rate of fire from 7.5 to 8, like I mentioned before. Other than that, the stats are exactly the same, so 226 pen, 230 damage, 258 on your premium, again 230, 42 and 280 for your HE, 2.3 second aiming time and 0.33 accuracy. It's not a bad gun, the 20 pounder, it's quite a nice gun. Decent pen on it as well, which is, it's a mixture, it's a good mix. It's got a really good rate of fire, not bad damage, slightly less than your 90mm, but it's generally got decent pen on it. And this uses APCR as standard, whereas the normal Centurion doesn't as well. That's also a difference. Hull traverse is the same at 36. You can see the difference in the turret armour there, but the side and rear is the same. The turret traverse is also the same at 36. 400 metre view range, again the same, but this has a slightly reduced signal range at 710 instead of 750. So that is, just, I don't think it'll make too much of a difference, but it is there. Now with this one being a loner, I don't have the, excuse me. With this one being a loner, I don't actually have the crew on it to show you. Supplies wise, I think they're pretty much the same, maybe slightly more than on the Centurion because it's APCR, but still 680 for your standard APCR, 4,400 for your premium, and then 170 for your high explosive. Equipment wise, I've just been quite boring and put a vertical stabilizer, gun rammer and vents, which are my coated optics, which are my standard sort of setup for medium tanks, especially with this sort of taking advantage of that 400 meter view range. Sorry, my voice keeps going and my throat keeps going a bit funny. So there's not a great deal to say. Like I said, it is essentially a tech tree Centurion, but for the Swedish line as well. Power to weight ratio is affected by the engine, obviously. Like I said before, this gets 12.79 horsepower per ton. A tech tree Centurion gets 16.7 horsepower per ton. So there's quite a difference there. Especially, you'll notice it, going up inclines. You will notice quite a bit of a difference there. Other than that, I think again everything's the same as the normal Centurion, same placement, same fire chance and everything. I mean, it is a Centurion. It says in the description that I think it was about 250 Centurion 3s and 5s were given to Sweden, and then one was presented to the actual band this year, I think it was. And they were actually, variously modified and upgraded, and were in service until the early 2000s. So, it does make sense that it's pretty much the same as a standard Centurion. Same with the elevation on the gun, 18 degrees, which is not great. Same as on the Tech Tree one, it's pretty poor gun elevation, but great gun depression at -10. Terrain resistances are the same as well. I have checked, so it's 1.1 and 1.9, so they're quite nice terrain resistances on this. The other thing that's changed as well, obviously, because it's got a perma camo. In fact, worth noting, you can't put camouflage on it, hence, because of the perma camo, but you can't also put inscriptions on it or emblems either. Just worth mentioning, because I think this is the first tank I've seen where you can't put anything on it at all. Concealment is slightly different as well. It's 0.23 and 0.18 on this for stationary. Moving on a normal Centurion, it's 0.21 and 0.16, if memory serves me right. Turret on top. Radio's in the same location in the bustle. There goes my throat again. Ammunition blocks are pretty much the same, so it's got one in the front of the hull, which is one of the more annoying features of a lot of the high-tier British tanks, is their ammo rack location, because if you get hit in the front of the hull, which is generally what you're pointing towards the enemy, yeah, there's a good chance you can get your ammo rack damaged. And then crew placement again is the same, so you've got your driver down in the right hand side of the hull there, and then you've got the other 4 crew members, or band members if you will, depending on whether you well, in fact, I'm going to say you can only buy this. I'm going to say whether you bought it or earned it, but you can't earn it, can you? But yeah, anyway, regardless of that, commander under his commander's hatch, and then the gunner, loader, and I'm assuming radio operator up there as well. Hit points are the same, 1450, and the only real thing different here is the front of the turret. The rest of it is again the same. You've got your same side skirts, which will act as spaced armour. So 120mm takes in those, the whole floor, and I think that's about it. The engine deck as well. 21 to 30 is the front part of the deck, top of the turret, top of the commander's hatch. 31 to 50 is your hull sides, which are still slightly angled, and the rear of the tank, and the upper sides of the turret, which is a bit odd shaped as well, so it's slightly different down one side to the other. 71 to 90, that's the front of the hull. In fact, what is the armour profile of the hull? I forgot to mention that one. 76, 51 and 38, and that's front, sides and rear. Again, same as a Tech Tree Centurion 1. So that's your upper and lower glacis, which again are probably going to be about the same. I think they are just 76mm. That front angle part of the turret as well that comes down sloping towards the gun mantle, that is still the same thickness as it is on a standard Centurion. And the commander's hatch as well is the same, as are the sides and the rear of the turret. And I've been penned through the commander's hatch. I was using the gun depression slightly. It was a tricky shot, and he fired heat, and it seemed to go in almost at the join of the commander's hatch and the turret roof. So whether, I don't know whether it was supposed to have sort of maybe gone through that slope bit, I'm not too sure, but it was I think it was a T28 prototype, and I'm sure he fired heat. So I don't know with that frontal bit. If you're using your gun depression, obviously it increases that angle even more, and basically it's almost an auto bounce zone, if not an auto bounce zone. 91 to 120, turret cheeks and the sides of the gunmetal. 121 to 160 is a surround behind the gunmetal and parts of that, and then it just gets thicker and thicker towards the front. 161 to 190. 191 to 230 is a thin strip there, and then your 254 is basically the rest of the front of the turret and a strip right across the middle of the gunmetal. It makes a nice change to the Centurion. It makes it play quite differently. It's very, very formidable now when it's hull down, and especially on ridgelines, like I say, when you're using that gun depression and not really showing much of the rest of your turret apart from that really solid front. So I am looking forward to that coming to the tech tree ones. Just don't know when that'll be. There are a few other additions on here. There's that sort of metal plating on the front of the hull. That doesn't count towards any extra armour or anything else, neither do the plates with the spikes over the front of the tracks. They don't count towards any armour at all. The turret does have the basket on the back, very much like the Centurion 7.1. And it's also got that small viewport just behind the gunmetal on the top of the turret there, or on that slope part of the turret, which is on the Centurion 7.1's turret, but not on the Centurion Mk1's turret. So this one, it does seem to be a bit of a mix, turret-wise, sort of shape-wise and sort of features between the two. But anyway, enough of me going on about it in the garage. Let's get into the replays and see how it actually handles. Right, so here we are for the first of the replays, and a couple of apologies. One for no video for most of the week. For those of you that haven't seen my Twitter, my youngest son on Monday had an accident at school during PE, where he fell and landed funny on his elbow, and it was suspected that he might have fractured his elbow again. So sort of various hospital and doctor's visits and sleepless nights, because they weren't sure in A&E. So they sent him home and said to book into orthopaedics, which we couldn't get into until today. So been in, and he has got an incomplete fracture, I think they call it, also known as a buccal fracture, in his elbow. So they've now put him a pot on, but it's been a long week. Like I say, with sleepless nights, poor little bugger has just had to deal with the sling, so it's been keeping him up at night, and obviously he's been keeping us up as well, so it's just been one of those weeks this week. And to top that off as well, obviously there's the issues with the heating. So we've got no heating at the moment, apart from a fan heater or two, and also, yeah, I've finally come off the morphine for pain relief, and it's just made me a little bit ill this week as well. So not too bad, but just a bit off it with that. But I'm feeling a lot better towards the end of the week now. Feeling better as it's sort of, really getting out of my system now. So that's a good thing. But anyway, back to this. Oh yeah, sorry if I sounded very tired in the garage review. It's because I did it yesterday with the intention of uploading this video yesterday, and I was just so tired, just exhausted, that I ended up deciding to do it today instead. So yeah, that's why I'm a bit tired in the garage review. But the bonuses on this, which I think I forgot to mention, are 60% silver, and I think it was 10% XP, although I will just check. 15% XP, so yeah, 60% silver bonus and a 15% XP bonus. And like I said in the garage, there's not a great deal to say about this. It is just the same as a Tech Tree Centurion, apart from that smaller engine, the slight increase to the rate of fire, and of course receiving the buffed turret, which the PC ones have got, and the console Tech Tree Centurions will be getting at some point. And that's what I was just sort of saying in the garage, that the main thing that makes this unique is that really strong turret front at 254mm. But it's not going to keep that uniqueness, because like I say, at some point the Tech Tree ones will get that, get that turret, and then this will just be, a slightly slower version of that one, albeit in the Swedish Tech Tree as opposed to the British. But if you're a fan of the band, if you're like a big fan of the band, then this might be for you. But to be honest, the price, 13,000 gold, is very, very expensive, and I think it's a bit too expensive for this. No matter, it don't matter about the turret, it's still, and my voice is going again, You know, I say it doesn't really matter about the turret because, I mean, essentially it's a Centurion. And at some point in the future will just be that, will be this, you know, the same as the tech tree ones. But it's not a... The tank itself isn't a bad tank. In fact, you know, personally I think it's a pretty good tank. But I wouldn't pay that much gold for it, to be honest. But the way that... I mean, I've just used a couple of average matches here for you. You know, I've not done anything spectacular in this, but I've had some, you know, I've had a couple of alright matches. I've used a couple of decent ones. But the addition of that armour on the front of the turret has kind of changed the tank a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to when that buff finally comes to the tech tree ones, because I do like the Centurion 7.1 as well. I've got that, and I quite enjoyed the normal Centurion. And I think that once it's got that buff, it may be one that I'll buy back for messing about at tier 80. Or I may... I don't know, I may possibly pick up the Huntsman at some point if it ever comes available again. I don't know. But that'd probably be after the buff. I don't think I'd get it before. But yeah, so like I say, the tank itself is, you know, I quite like the Centurions, and that turret does make it a very solid tank, especially for hull down. And I just think it's too expensive, to be honest. I just think it needs to be a bit cheaper. And again, it is one of those things where it's a great tank, whether it's a good premium or not. It's debatable because it's not in the British tech tree. So, although it is essentially a Centurion, it's a Swedish one. You know, so what were your other choices for the Swedish tech tree? You know, Swedish premiums was the tier 6 auto-loading medium or the TD, and if you weren't fussed about either of those, then, you know, and you're wanting a Swedish premium, then this could be one for you. But like I say, I just think the price is too high, and as much as I do like the Centurions, and as much as I've enjoyed playing this with that increased turret armour, because it does make it great hull down, it does make it fantastic on ridge lines. It's not one that I'm going to be buying, and that's simply because of the cost. And I think I mentioned in the garage review as well, you can't put anything on it, nothing, no inscriptions, no insignias, or emblems, sorry, and obviously no camouflage because it's got that perm camo skin on it as well. And you see, I was thinking whether, you know, I mean, they've added those plates onto the front, whether they ought to have just made that a few mil thicker under those plates, but then I think with it having that stronger turret front as well, it probably would have been a bit too over the top, giving it extra hull armour as well. But you know, when it gets going, it can still shift. The Centurions have got that increased top speed now. They have done since, well, a couple of months ago, I think it was. And once it gets going, you know, on flat ground you don't really notice the decrease in engine particularly, unless you are, you know, around other Centurions, that sort of thing, or if you've been driving the Centurion a lot, you would probably notice it a little bit on the acceleration. You tend to notice it more on the hill climbs, you know, going uphill. That's where it makes itself, it just becomes a bit more sort of prevalent. Now, I was expecting a bit more resistance along here. I didn't really want to be in the lead. That was very badly aimed. Made him pull up short though. And reloading time to get another one. Yep. Got one into him. Back off though, because I've been spotted. Got no skills on this as well, and that's something I did forget to mention in the garage, is skills. And I'm trying to think what I've got on my Centurion. Oh, took a hit there from something. I think I've got things like obviously Sixth Sense, camouflage. I think I've got clutch braking because the hull traverse, although it seems quite nice when you turn in like this, 36, there are quicker ones out there, so I think I have got clutch braking on it possibly. Obviously Brothers in Arms, safe stowage as well is definitely one because of the ammo rack locations. You definitely want safe stowage on here. But just pushing forwards. This one again, not a great round. It's not too bad. I'm getting to a position where I can really use that turret front, but unfortunately, a bit of a spoiler. I don't know if he was paying attention there. I expected him to carry on going down into this dip. But yeah, a bit of a spoiler. I do lose my patience a little bit we're just sort of getting in a position where I'm not really taking any damage because they're just bouncing off the turret, but I'm getting frustrated because there is a TD. In fact, it's not long from here. There's a TD up there somewhere, an AT-15 I think it is, and we can't spot him. And it's one of those, you know, the AT-15, you might be able to figure out where he is from his tracer rounds, but you've got to aim for the weak spots. And, you know, it'd just be pot luck, so I do get a bit frustrated and end up just pushing in because this IS-3 gets himself in a very good position for, not for doing any damage, but he keeps us all spotted over at this end of the field. So, you know, he does get himself into a good position, and yeah, it is annoying. And I'll let impatience get the better of me. See, that's where I take hit from the AT-15. I think that's the first time it sort of made his presence known. And I've got no skills on this crew, so I decide that instead of sitting there and potentially taking a load of damage, I'm going to use my repair kit and get back. That little increase the rate of fire is nice though. It's not a lot, you know, it's, well, 7.5 to 8 rounds a minute, so, you know, it's half a round a minute more, but it is just nice. And I kind of hope that when the Centurions get that turret buff, they also get the rate of fire increase as well. But it's quite a nice, solid gun for a tier 8 medium, I think, the 20 pounder. You know, like I say, it's very similar to the 90mm, but a little bit less pen, but generally just a little bit more, sorry, not less pen, less damage, but generally just a bit more pen than most of the tier 8 sort of 90mm on the medium tanks have got. Now, still can't get at that. Still can't quite get at that IS-3. He's put himself, like I say, in a very good position. He can't fire at any of us, but he's keeping us lit up and he'll be getting plenty of assisted and sort of spotting damage done. And this is where this is where I lose my patience a bit. The AT-15 tracks me, so I'll try taking a shot at the IS-3 while I'm here. But this is where I just wanted to get across there and try and spot that AT-15, and hopefully everybody else will be able to take him down. There's the Tiger 2 again. If I can get alongside the IS-3, I can put a couple of shots into him. Missed that one. Well, it bounced. Take another hit. Although, that just went into my tracks. Don't position myself very well, although I have spotted the AT-15. In fact, positioned myself really badly. I kind of thought that the Tiger 2 was preoccupied and that I got a bit more cover on the left from some of those houses, but I was very much mistaken. But you saw in there at least how effective that turret can be when it's on a bit of a ridge. But there you go, Primo Victoria. Not a bad tank. Bit too expensive in my opinion, but you know, quite nice. Like I said, I do like the Centurion, and with that turret buff it's proving to be quite fun. But there you go, hope you've enjoyed that. I'll be back Sunday with another video, so until then, take care out there and I'll catch you next time. See you later.